A big controversy in downtown Providence. We're going to bang it out and lay out all the issues. It is great to have you in. Thanks for joining my State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. It is a brand new first full week of 2014. And again, thanks so much for watching and for a lot of your kind words and even criticisms of the program. At the end of the show, we offer your State of Mind, where you can refer to us and kick back and feedback and get your voice heard on the show. And I'd love 2014 to be very interactive with you, but continue to spread the word about the show. I appreciate it. And it's been fun, good growth as we started in September. Seems like only yesterday, 4 months ago. How about the weather? Not that I've got time for small talk, but I don't think, I was talking to my kid the other day, my daughter and I were walking into Mass, and I didn't even have a jacket on Sunday morning. And today I woke up, I had shirt sleeves on to get into the car, and then by the time we're done with production tonight, it'll be onward down to 9 degrees. Have you ever seen this kind of a thing in the weather? Wow. And Mother Nature teasing us with like springtime showers this morning. Very, very hard. They got through it in Green Bay, but they didn't win it in Green Bay. It never got to minus something, just wind chills, minus 25. If you missed the Friday show, I was half apoplectic about all that. But some good ball games, no doubt. And by the way, the national championship is tonight, so I'm not going to miss that. My guess is Auburn remains the team of destiny, I think. And speaking of big upsets, Rhode Island beats LSU on the road in basketball. Big game tomorrow night at St. Louis. Maybe we'll see you at the Ryan Center. How's that? Let's go to the rundown. Oh, by the way, I'll tell you about my guest here in a moment, because it's a very, very important conversation about something that's going on in downtown Providence. Has everybody up in arms, at least a lot of the business owners. Yeah, the ACLU is now getting involved in this ongoing Cranston story, and while they often don't bat very high with me, they're right on this one. A little bit of a chip away at the establishment for the non-establishment Republican candidate for governor. This woman was on Newsmakers this weekend and blew me away with her lack of logic. We'll show you an excerpt and lament her thinking. What else do we have on the rundown tonight? Yes, as if they have an image problem in that fair town. And yes, you know what the GA is? The GA is the General Assembly. That is your state government. They start the new year tomorrow. All right, let's just kick a couple of these things around. Our first story on the rundown, the ACLU and the Cranston ticket blitz. This is about this. Remember this headline a couple weeks ago? Well, this is the new headline for the story a couple of weeks ago. ACLU wants outside party to investigate the ticket scandal. Usually they bat about 250 with me, the ACLU, but they're right on this one, no doubt. This is about the story where the two counselors who voted against the police contract at the Cranston City Council back in December, the next day found themselves all ticketed. Steve Stykos and Paul Archetta, they were the two counselors that came and told the story. Here's an excerpt from a show last month.
I walked out of my front door and there were cars on the street that had tickets. And that, as councilmen, we often get calls from people who complain about chronic overnight parking. And it's difficult for us to get the police to act on those complaints. It often takes multiple calls. So that struck me as a little bit interesting, a little bit odd. And I talked to Paul, and lo and behold, there were a lot of tickets.
You too.
In his neighborhood. A great deal of orange stickers on the major streets in my ward.
Visible by just the pedestrian walk through this neighborhood. It's like, what?
Yes.
Oh yeah, they're bright orange.
Can't you remember that? By the way, it's Archetto, not Archetta. I know an Archetta. Wasn't it David Archetta? He wasn't the guy who was the idol? Archuleta. I think these A names are having a challenge with me tonight. But anyway, that was the story. And then Stykos went on and said he had a theory as to who might be involved here.
My theory is it had to be someone higher up ordered it, because if the city's divided into 3 police districts, and Paul's ward is in the center district, and my ward is in the eastern district. So the people who run at the sergeant level, who run the first district, someone had to say we're doing both districts tonight. So they had to be over the sergeant.
Look, here's the bottom line. I said it before, I'll say it again, and I agree with the ACLU. An independent investigation. Give it to the state police. Don't have internal affairs do it. But Alan Fung, the mayor of Cranston, is doing this hybrid thing because he's covering bases. He's having a New York former FBI consultant type review what his own department brings through the investigation. That's not good enough. You want an outside guy from New York to do it? Have him start and finish and own the whole report, or give it to the state police. Alan Fung not showing the kind of leadership he needs to show when it comes to gubernatorial timber. Remember, he's a Republican candidate for that office. Speaking of, segue here, block momentum. The other guy in the Republican primary put out a press release today. It said this: state Republican leader and Lincoln GOP chairman Michael Napolitano joins Ken Block for governor campaign. Mike Napolitano will be on the broadcast on Wednesday to talk about why he is joining forces with Ken Block. Block may appear tomorrow, not necessarily on the politics, but on the conversation that we're going to have later on tonight with Angus Davis, my guest. I'll explain momentarily. But here's what's interesting about Napolitano. He is the state communications guy for the state party, and in addition to his Lincoln GOP chairmanship, and he was the communications guy for John Robitaille in the last gubernatorial election. Why is that important? Well, a lot of the Robitaille fans think that Block screwed Robitaille by being the moderate party guy in the race. And so if Robitaille loyalists are now moving to Ken Block, that really is surprise momentum for Ken Block, and not good for the establishment position that Alan Fung thinks he has with a very tiny Republican Party. Stay tuned for developments on that. So again, Napolitano will join us on Wednesday of this week. All right, moving on real quick. This just shocked me. This woman, Nellie Gorbea, was on with Tim White on Newsmakers the other day. She's running for Secretary of State, and she wants to reverse the voter ID laws that were controversial and actually something good the General Assembly did, because she's, well, here's some of her logic about you forget your ID. Well, what?
Basically presents a challenge. So if you're on your way to the polling place and you suddenly think, oh my gosh, like I don't have my ID on me, you're going to turn around. The chances are that you may not go back. There are actually still people, and I know it's hard for people to understand, but I have actually had conversations with people who either know or have had challenges getting IDs. And so while, yes, the law here is about as open as it could be, again, was there a problem? I don't think so. I don't think we have the evidence that really requires us to do that. And we are being held up as a poster child by a lot of other people who honestly are using voter ID laws as voter suppression.
Mainly because
Great interview by Tim. So you forget your ID, and you go back. You may not go. You have to go home and get it. You may not go back to the polls. So what? You know, we don't need lazy ignoramuses voting in this country. Oh, you need an ID for just about everything we do. If you forget it, you got to go get it. Oh. You know, as far as voter suppression is concerned, look, I want my vote and yours to be sustained by equitable participation, meaning everybody plays by the same rules and shows themselves to be legitimately at the polls. It's that simple. This woman sounds like a very smart person, but she feeds into this whole liberal conspiracy. And frankly, she's not going to make it with this argument, no matter how much she's pandering to, I guess, Latino voters who reportedly don't want to bring their IDs, which I think is bunk anyway. All right, finally, well, almost finally, cleaning up the North Providence Act. Let me be short on this. This was funny. Here was the headline that cracked me up. Good headline in the Journal today. If you smell a rat, please let them know. Yeah, there's a new committee that formed off the Audit Committee on Finances in North Providence that now has put up a hotline. On Thursday, we'll have one of the committee members, one of the public, from the public participants, who's now sifting out the calls. Hey, by the way, you know what's happening in North Providence? This guy's brown bagging with this guy. That's what the phone thing is all about. I love that. It's all to clean up the image of North Providence. I thought they were doing pretty well since the Three Stooges episode there. But we'll have Mr. Natale, one of the guys on this committee, on Thursday night as North Providence brings its image back to respectability. And finally, our General Assembly is meeting for the new year beginning tomorrow. Here's a list of what the Providence Journal, here's their headline, yep, here they're coming in, and here's a list of the things that they say they're going to be working on, or the Journal projected would be the major conversations. The pension lawsuit, no doubt, because when it gets out of the negotiations, the mediations, the General Assembly is going to have a real political football problem, because I don't think they've got the appetite to rework the pension deal. And then all those other things, the economy, well, they just have a status quo disposition on that. I don't think they can do much with that. Tolls, I think there'll still be some kind of screwing that the people in the Aquidneck Island area get on that. 38 Studios, maybe there'll be a compelling conversation about not paying the bonds, but maybe they'll actually call out the leadership who put us in this position in the first place, and maybe I'll shoot 65 on the golf course when I go to Florida during the winter break. No, neither one of those two things are going to happen. And a whole bunch more. We'll cover all these other things. Health Source Rhode Island, it'll be broke by 2015, and there won't be anything substantial in gun control, but who knows. All right, when we come back, Angus Davis. He's a CEO of the company called Swipely. He's a successful entrepreneur, but he's raving angry about a move the state is making to move a probation office into downtown Providence. Stay with us. So welcome back in. This headline appeared in the Providence Journal the other day, and I took some interest in looking at the issue on the radio with Angus Davis last week, and you might have heard some of the stuff I put on the rundown. Chamber decries parole venue. So the business community is a little upset with or a lot upset actually, depending on who you are, with a move that the state properties committee, along with the Chafee administration, have pulled off. Angus Davis is my guest. Good to see you, kiddo. Angus is a successful guy. He's been on the State Board of Education. Made his big hit in the high-tech world, and now is doing phase 2 with a company called Swipely downtown, correct?
That's right.
Happy New Year, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Happy New Year to you, too.
So you've got, thank you, you've got 80 or plus employees with this new company. Give me the 30-second on what the company does.
Sure. We work with local businesses like restaurants or hair salon or a liquor store to help them get access to the same type of technologies that online e-commerce companies use to help them grow. So basically, we help these local merchants accept payments, understand their customers better using the data behind those transactions, and grow sales with marketing tools. We started 2013 with fewer than 30 employees, and now we have just over 80 employees now. So it's been a real banner growth year. We grew the top line over 500% in 2013, so we're pretty psyched about that.
Congratulations. I'm sure it'll be a smash success. This high-tech stuff goes so fast, I can't even follow it. So someday I'll have you back and we'll actually talk more about the evolving industries, because it is a fascinating conversation. But you're not happy. You're a little angry about something that's going on. Your location is where for your company?
We just moved because we outgrew a prior location we had in the Jewelry District area of Providence. We've just moved to Kennedy Plaza. And we're really excited by that because there's a lot of good things happening.
All right, we're on the plaza. We don't have a map
we're
here, but y'all know the
on
plaza.
10 Dorn Street. So you know where Haven Brothers is?
Yes.
We're catty corner to Haven Brothers. So if you ever want that greasy spoon fix.
All right. So what people need to know, City Hall, Haven Brothers, right there. And then just a block over is the point of contention. If you're behind, if you think about the hotel area with the Westin, the Providence Journal building, the Biltmore, right at the end of that corner, closer to Kennedy Plaza, is a location called 40 Fountain Street, which is housed businesses or the Ethics Commission, the State Ethics Commission, and a whole bunch of other human service folks and the like. But the state has decided to move the parole and probation office that was highly populated from the south side of Providence on Prairie Avenue to this location, and you're fit to be tied about it. Why?
Well, there's several reasons. My first concern is about the safety of my employees. I'm the CEO of my company, and I'm responsible and accountable for their safety. And the statistics say that somewhere between 19 and 27% of the folks that are served by this office that are on parole or probation are there for a violent offense. And the statistics say that 61% of those folks are going to commit another offense. So if anything, I just am concerned about the safety of my employees and making sure that we locate this office in an appropriate location. For the sake, just to be clear, I don't think it should be on Prairie Avenue either. That's a residential neighborhood. So I don't think this office should be in a residential neighborhood.
It was in the Urban League building, to be accurate.
Correct.
But the Urban League, which has had its own wacky
Well, that's a whole other thing, yeah.
The reason the thing is being moved is that facility is being closed, correct?
It's unclear.
Or sold.
Well,
or it went defunct, or
they
is
want
broke,
to.
or
Well, they want to sell it, but that's a whole separate issue, and that's not by no means is that a done deal either. But the state wants to move it, and so Normally, when the state wants to move an office or locate an office somewhere, first and foremost, they try to put it in a building that they own. This building at 40 Fountain Street, it's important to point out, is not owned by the state. It's a private developer that owns that building that they would be renting the space from. So additional concern on top of the safety of my employees and the impact this might have, of which I have a lot of questions, is there's also a taxpayer issue in that they're talking about tripling the rent that they pay now to what they would be paying to move to this private developer. And the third concern I have is I care a lot about the economic development in Providence. We're trying to advance tourism. This is right across here from the hotel. We're trying to attract other businesses to come downtown. And one of the big things that the Providence Police Department has been doing is try to reduce crime in the Kennedy Plaza area. And I know that some people have concerns about that, but the truth is they've been making some great progress. And they weren't consulted about this. When I contacted the lieutenant in charge of our neighborhood, he expressed serious concerns about this proposal. So I think there's a whole host of reasons why we have questions about it. But the truth is we didn't get a chance to voice those concerns or hear answers to those questions. And that's because the State Property Committee, which made this decision, which is run by the Director of Administration, Richard Leach, gets to appoint 2 out of the 3 people on that board. So it's basically Richard Leach that makes those decisions. The State Property Committee didn't follow its ordinary process. They
Hold that thought. When we come back, we'll talk about what the process usually is and how it wasn't used here, and ask some questions and play a little bit of the devil's advocate when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back in. Angus Davis, successful entrepreneur and businessman in downtown Springfield, is here. He's got 80 plus employees right off Kennedy Plaza that he's moved from the Jewelry District, and we're in the middle of a conversation about this decision by the state to move the probation office from the south end to downtown at 40 Fountain Street. They're blocks away, and he's concerned about the traffic there and the kind of people that are coming in and out of that facility. And you know, some may say this is a little bit elitist. We'll get to that in a second. But we were talking about process in the State Properties Commission, which by and large is designed to make these decisions in the public eye. And you're a little concerned that they haven't, right?
Absolutely. There's something we have called the State Properties Committee or State Properties Commission. And when you hear that phrase, you imagine a board of your peers that have been appointed and so forth, members of the public. There's not a single member of the public on that committee. It's made up of 3 people, 2 of whom are controlled by the Director of Administration, Richard Leach. And so already to begin with, I think there's some questions about good governance and the ethical implications of that. But more specifically, anytime the government goes to buy a building, lease a building, and so forth, there's a very prescribed process they're meant to follow in which they ask around to make sure there's no existing state-owned facilities. And if they are going to go out and buy or lease space, that they issue a request for proposal. And people bid, and there's a public process through which that is done to ensure good government. In this particular case, in the week before Christmas, this was jammed through outside the normal public process. They got a waiver saying that there was some sort of extraordinary reason why they ought not have to follow the public process.
And that is what? That the Urban League location is a little bit sketchy and time is of the essence or something like that? I don't know.
I don't know.
The contract has not yet been signed yet, has it?
No, it is. To my knowledge, it has not been signed because I believe it would have to go back before the property committee to formalize it when it is signed.
So
but
you
I don't
feel
know.
like you've got some room with other businesses in the city that want to have a problem with this. The chamber has actually stepped out and said they have an issue with this. So
It's also opposed by the Providence Foundation. It's also opposed by the Downtown Providence Parks Conservancy, which represents Greater Kennedy Plaza, and a number of others.
That's interesting. And by the way, on this process issue, I understand that Ken Block, candidate for governor, is holding a press conference tomorrow at the State House in what's been proffered to expose problems with this process on this building and other issues with the State Buildings Commission. He'll be a guest on the program tomorrow to follow up on what Angus has had to say here. But let's just spend a minute or two on this. Look, there's a lot of courts downtown. There are a lot of folks who may not meet everyone's comfort zone that travel in and around Kennedy Plaza and the like. Are you playing a little bit of an elitist role here, suggesting that your people shouldn't have to deal with these kinds of people who are just trying to turn their lives around?
Look, I understand the concern. That's not why I'm upset about this. I'm upset about this from a crime standpoint. This has nothing to do with income levels or any of these other things that people are trying to make it be about that it's not. This is about, should we have over 1,500 people who have been convicted of crime be required by the state to come into the Kennedy Plaza area when the statistics tell us that somewhere between 19 and 27% of these folks are violent offenders who have 61% of them will recommit crimes. And I, as a CEO, have responsibility for the safety of my employees, and I don't think I'm out of my mind to have a question or two about that. And look, if it is all safe and all above board, why can't we follow the normal public process? Why can't the questions myself and others be answered?
Well, I think that is probably the biggest problem here, is that you should be able to make your arguments as you're making them here in the middle of that process for evaluation. Well, one way you've done it is to wedge yourself into the public debate anyway, so we'll see if you get that chance. The Chafee administration says, oh, we'll listen to anybody, and here's a headline real quick from the Providence Journal. The mayor says he's sensitive to the worries because you wrote a letter. Real quick, did you hear back from Mayor Taveras?
Well, not yet, but I read the comments you just show, and I also read that every candidate that's declared for mayor, save for one, has come out on record opposing this in Providence. So this is a broad group of people that have concerns about this, that this isn't the best location for the office. It shouldn't be on Prairie Avenue. It shouldn't be in Kennedy Plaza. In my opinion, it should be in an industrial area or co-located workforce development office.
Know that there's 9 or 10 other facilities like it that are in those kinds of areas around the state. So all part of the probation and parole system. All right, listen, we'll have you back on this some more. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll follow this, and there'll be a follow-up tomorrow. Your State of Mind when we come back. Stay with us. Back on Your State of Mind, 228-1886, State of Mind at myritv.com or a Facebook post, tweet at us right there. Here's a post to us on this issue that we've been discussing on the downtown thing. Governor Chafee needs to step up and rethink it. Yes, says Patrick J. And then this is a nice one that we got on our conversation with Andrew Miner from Friday, the East Greenwich Wendy's Heisman winner. Refreshing young man and great interview in a world where we typically hear the antithesis of his accomplishments. His humility was pure. Thanks. Here's a picture of Andrew that we have from Friday night. He was a terrific guest, a real charmer. High School Musical. All right, we'll follow up on this story of downtown tomorrow night at 7:30 on Dan Yorke State of Mind.